JellyPod episode. Today, I'm here with Apex from the House of Titans project. Now, House of Titans is one of the biggest passive income projects in Cardano. They're invested in a bunch of different things, whether that's crypto mining or even the Iagon nodes, and hosting all of that delegated staking that just happened in this past week. So, in this sort of episode today, we're going to learn a little bit more about Apex's journey, how he actually got into this space, and then a little bit more about House of Titans and sort of how they manage their whole entire business here. But yeah, with that out of the way, welcome to the podcast, Apex. The first question I always like to ask on these is, what's your story? Like how did you get into this crazy world of Web3?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on the podcast. I've been really enjoying the other content that I've seen, from the other projects that you had. Like I saw that you did an interview with Iagon and you had Talos and you had Roll, a bunch of really good teams in the ecosystem. But yeah, regarding myself, so I'm the CEO of the Titans project. When it comes to my journey, so I got into crypto in around 2018, 2019, kind of like around when COVID pandemic started, right? So around then I was like working like a job, like Web2 job, and one of my best friends, who was already into crypto like a couple years before me, he was always telling me like, hey, you should look into Ethereum, you should look into Bitcoin, Cardano. So then finally, one day he convinced me to start looking into Cardano, right? So I, looked into it. I watched the Charles Hoskinson's famous whiteboard video. Then, I just started buying a bit of crypto with every paycheck. And I think Cardano back then was at like 6 or 7 cents or something, right?
Oh wow,
So
so
you
you
could,
found it pretty early.
yeah, it was quite early. So you could get quite a decent amount of it with, not that much, because I didn't have that much, liquidity back then to invest into things. But if you put like $500 or something, you could get quite a lot of Cardano with that back then, right? And then I just kept stacking Cardano. Never really touched any other cryptos. A little bit of Bitcoin, but I didn't really, like Cardano has this, like Charles Hoskinson. He was such a let's say like fanatical figure that I kind of like became a Cardano maxi in some sort. Then fast forward to 2021, the NFTs became a thing on Cardano. Started looking at them, and I think I caught them really early. I didn't catch like the Space Buds Mint and all those early projects, but when I started looking at the NFT space, I think there was this website called, was it like Open Sea? No, I can't remember anymore what it was called.
Open CNFT maybe.
OpenSea NFT, and the all-time volume back then was like below 100,000 ADA, right? So it was like super early. So then, as everyone else, I started buying NFTs, because back in those days, as you know yourself, you could purchase literally any project that you could, and then the next day you could flip it for like 10x or whatever. It was just pure
And make money. Yeah, it was
yeah,
crazy.
it was pure speculation in those days. So yeah, I started buying and flipping them. That's what the term was back then. And then, one day I was like, well, I've made quite a lot of contacts in the space. I identified all these different kind of like through flipping the projects, you learn like different criteria, what projects are going to be, let's say, more successful than others, right? Like you look at their team and,
100%.
these kind of things, right? So then I was thinking like, maybe I should start something of my own. So yeah, fast forward a couple years later, here we are basically. The reason behind the House of Titans project itself, or Titans now, we were originally called House of Titans, is that I kind of like saw it quite early that a lot of these NFT projects back in those days, they didn't have any. Well, they were just relying on the speculation, right? Pure speculation. So if someone purchases the NFT, they're relying on the next person paying a higher premium for it, right? And the NFT projects themselves, they couldn't, there wasn't like in cash flow, like there wasn't any revenue to keep the projects going. So we saw quite a lot of big names kind of like start folding. And I think it was one of the first one was like Chilled Kong, like they were so popular, like so hyped, but then yeah, just the team was just they didn't really know what they were kind of like doing, right?
Yeah.
So that then I started thinking that I think like if we release a product that kind of like solves this issue, and I like to call them revenue rewarding NFTs or revenue rewarding products. And the whole idea behind the Titans is to become this like revenue rewarding ecosystem. So first we released like the PFPs, the NFT PFPs, and the purpose for that was to create a community, because yourself in Web3, like if you have a community, then you guys can kind of like you know do whatever from there. And the NFTs have this number one strength, and that's community building, right? And then once we built the community around the PFPs, we decided that we want to launch this kind of like utility NFT, which is called Strongholds. So the idea behind Strongholds was that we would raise funds, and then all those funds would be invested into put into like passive income generating assets. So mainly investing into like DeFi, deep in projects, and Bitcoin mining. And the whole model is basically that if you have Bitcoin mining, that that gives you like stable and steady rewards, even though they're not that high per se. Whereas like when you pair it with DeFi and Deepin products that have more kind of like speculative aspect to them and more potential, well then you can create this kind of like perfect model, right? And you obviously have to have these little bit more speculative investments, because it's crypto, right? Everybody, that's why everyone is here, right? Otherwise you would just invest into stocks or something. So yeah, that's more or less the nutshell of the NFT side of things. And then fast forward a year later, we released the Titan token. And Titan token is basically works in exactly the same way as the NFTs, but it's just more simplified. It's just having a token. There's no kind of like really depth into it. Whereas with the NFTs, we do have like this gamified side where people can interact with the ecosystem and stuff. Whereas the token is just pure, passive. Passive. You just hold it, and then you will get rewarded every month from all our different investments. Yeah, that's it in a
Wow.
nutshell.
So, dude, I love that. Dude, I love how you just like could recite everything like that. So
Yeah,
one
no
of the
worries.
questions I actually have with it is, when it comes to your project, it's mostly around this sort of revenue generating aspect. What made you believe that was the route that NFTs were going, and like why you wanted to, really launch a project around that? Like what about like the revenue generating like really attracted you to the project as far as the pros of that?
I guess one of the main reasons was, as I mentioned, that a lot of projects started kind of like folding because of this reason. Like they started minting new NFT collections, and then when you mint a second NFT collection, you automatically dilute the previous collection, right?
Exactly.
And like for example, you remember TAS, the Ape Society?
Hmm.
They were the number one project. They did everything fantastically, I would say, but their key weakness and their downfall was ultimately that it all relied on pure speculation, right, around their token. Whereas had they had some kind of revenue rewarding token where they could create a tokenomics in such a way that they could, like, instead of raising more funds all of the time, they could like hold a certain amount of the tokens in their treasury and sell it through OTC and stuff to raise more funds, and then that kind of like becomes this infinite money glitch. When you sell a portion of your treasury tokens to reinvest into your token, that in theory should push the token's price up, and then that pushes your treasury's price up again. So it's like, yeah. So once I saw like this like fallacy that you just purely rely on speculation, and as you know yourself, crypto is very like volatile, and yeah, I just somehow identified that this is going to be the next thing. I think the first model for passive income was the GGMC, so they launched like the mining on Cardano, right? So that was like the number one thing. But then I took it kind of like a step further with pairing the mining with the DeFi and Deepin. So one of our biggest investments has been into the Iagon's network. We are the number one investor with 6.5 million tokens staked. We've invested like hundreds of thousands into the infrastructure itself to run these nodes and stuff. So yeah, it's been a hell of a journey, I would say.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because I don't think people, like you said, a lot of NFT projects, they kind of came out, they minted, they got their money once, but then they run into this issue where they start burning through funds and they don't
Yeah,
have anything to like replenish that. And it's one of those situations where, yeah, like they'll let's come out with more NFTs, right? And that was
yeah,
kind of the route that things were going, but you just dilute your holders. Eventually, the floor goes to zero. There's nothing really backing it, and then the
yeah,
founders end up saying, "Hey guys, we ran out of money. We've got to close up shop," which has been happening a lot recently. Now, I am curious what goes into the deciding factor of what you decided to invest in? Like, I know you brought up the crypto mining. It's stable. It's consistent. But why did you get into the deep end side? Why Iagon? What kind of goes into deciding what you guys put your money into?
yeah. So like for the stronghold NFTs, when we first started minting the collection, it was supposed to be purely a mining NFT, right? But then it didn't really catch that much traction. So then what we did to like our team and in our Discord we have this kind of like alpha group called the Olympians. So that's like your whales, right? So it's kind of like a mini jelly cubes there. So together with them, we said like, look guys, like the mining concept is, other projects have already done it. Is there something else that we can kind of like think of, something new and innovative? And together with this group of like 15 or 20 people back then, we started researching, think about the different things, and Iagon popped up, and then we started looking into Iagon. And why Iagon was attractive was because their mission is to solve like this kind of like real world problem with their storage solutions, right? So it's a kind of like a less speculative investment than some other DeFi or like AI project or something, right? Because AI projects, well, they're very cool right now, but it's all kind of like new. Whereas with Igo, there's like a real problem out there, and then they're trying to solve that. Whereas like I don't know, like AI or something, like what are they really solving? There's not a
Yeah.
problem that they're solving. They're just trying to do something new and interesting, like speculative, let's call it. So yeah, then we decided to get in touch with the Iagon, and then I guess the rest is history. Like we became the first project to run these nodes for them and stuff. And then from there onwards, it's kind of like being this together with the team and these whales. We're constantly researching new opportunities and analyzing them. And with the decision making process, there's a lot of different things that you look into, like what is the team, what problem are they trying to resolve? Is it just pure speculation and hype, or is there actually something behind it? I think we've analyzed every single project on Cardano, and the main investments we've done so far is obviously into Iagon. We also have an investment into World Mobile Token, into their Air nodes, and we also have an Earth node. We did do like smaller investments into Cerberus, purchasing a bunch of their NFTs, and then we also had this partnership, well, not partnership, investment into Dedium in the early days. But since then, we've kind of like moved forward from that. We've also been looking a lot into cross chain, but with cross chain is quite tricky because, like on Cardano, if a new product pops up, it's very easy for me and people who have experience to identify if this is more or less a good, worthwhile investment, right? But when you try to approach these big cross chain projects, it's quite tricky because they don't really know who you are. You don't know anything about them. There's also this whole ego thing because a lot of the projects, let's say on Solana, Ethereum, like if you go into their discords, they've got like 500,000 users in
Yeah.
there. Obviously it's mostly bots, right? But it's
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 harder to
trickier, right?
gauge like real metrics and real
Yeah,
traction. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it's trickier because a lot of people have been asking like, hey, let's look into something to do with cross chain because on Cardano, there wasn't that much traction at some point, and then obviously you have to keep pushing forward and kind of like adapting or dying, right? So we were looking into that, but since then we've kind of like just decided, just to, we've got a lot of capital available for investments, and there's no really rush. The current operation is good and it's growing. So if something interesting comes around, we can look into that. But we've decided to, focus mainly on Cardano for now. Cardano
Yeah, and I
investments for
mean,
now.
I think that makes sense because, like, it is a lot to stay on top of and really know what is going on with all these different projects and all these different ecosystems constantly. And I think that if you can find something that works like what you guys have now, it doesn't really make sense to bridge out too much because then all of a sudden the risk goes up a lot. You could get into
Yeah,
something where on Cardano it looked like really great engagement, but like you said, could have completely different metrics on another chain. I mean, it is pretty hard to navigate. Now, I am
yeah.
curious, out of all the different things that you guys invested in, what has been the best performing? Has it been Iagon?
Yeah, I would say Igon has been the best performing. So how Igon works currently is that you run nodes like storage nodes, right? So you set up a node, then it expands their storage network, cloud storage network, and you get paid in Igon tokens over time. But on top of that, you also get paid operator rewards. What is an operator reward? That is basically when someone uses your server, like their clients basically pay us. Currently, Igon doesn't have that many clients, but if I understand correctly, what their kind of like short-term roadmap is that they released this general staking just a few days ago, and then after that they're going to focus on this F50 Fortune 500 company partnership, and then once that's all locked in and confirmed, then they're probably going to heavily market, because if you have this like F50 partnership, it's so much easier to approach businesses and clients and stuff like that. So the earning potential in Igon node operations is that you get about 25% APR on the coins that you staked to the nodes, but then on top of that you get paid through the fees and stuff, right? Even though the fees right now are not that high, but in the future there's more potential that the fee side of things can become even more profitable than the staking side of things, because they share 90% of their profits with the people who run the nodes. So let's say, I don't know, there's like 100 million revenue or something going around, then we're getting into quite serious figures, right? And that is kind of like they're really ambitious. So that's quite interesting. Like for example, now how much we're making. So with 6.5 million staked, with the 25%, it was higher. It was 28% APR. It's gone down a little bit because their model, like every year, goes down slightly, right? I think the last time I ran numbers, we're making around $400,000 worth of Igon profit, um, based on that day's price. I think the price has gone up a little bit now. So let's say if Igon goes to $1, then we'll be making like, I think it was like 1.5 million or something like that. If it goes to $10, 18 million. The numbers are crazy. It all depends on them, right?
Yeah.
But it is very profitable. But what I would say is that also the investment has to be considerable, right? Like we are the number one investors. We have 6.5 million, and we also invested into like the top tier infrastructure. Because with the running the nodes, there's like different metrics that you have to consider, like the uptime of the nodes. That if someone's running like an at-home setup, like what if your internet cuts off, then the node goes offline, for example. Or what if one of the disks breaks or something, then you have to wait to order a replacement one. Whereas we have like um, reserves, like what do you call it, like if something breaks, we already have another one to replace it immediately, and the nodes are running at a like a data center, in optimal conditions. So yeah, it is highly profitable. But then, at the end of the day, it all comes down to crypto, and lately it's been quite volatile with Trump and all his tariffs and and stuff. Um, but one thing that's encouraging about them is that obviously, as I said, that they're trying to resolve this real world problem. So like regardless where crypto is, if they have like the real world clients, then it becomes less relevant how crypto performs, right? Because at some point we'll be in a bear market again and the prices will go down. But will the price of ICO go down as much? Probably not. And then if you get paid also in like the stables through running the nodes for the operator fees, then that's kind of like a hedge against bear markets, I would say. Because it's all fun and games getting paid in like projects tokens when we're in a bear market and the conditions are good, but you also have to prepare for bear markets and have some kind of hedge against that. So that's where that comes in play.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Actually, the first podcast, well, I think it was actually the second podcast I did was with Navjeet from Igon, and
Yeah,
I absolutely loved what they're doing here. And like you said, if that Fortune 50 company fully goes through and their pilot program goes well, the amount of computers that are automatically going to be using Igon are going to be in the millions. So it's like right
yeah,
now there's a little bit of, most of the rewards and emissions, like you said, sound like they're an Igon token, which, isn't super sustainable, right? However,
yeah.
if they're able to get all those additional fees and share those with the node operators, I mean, like you said, the potential is insane. I've also seen you, so I am curious about this as well. When you're getting into these different investments, such as Igon, what is sort of your role or what do you try to do outside of just investing money into it? What's kind of your process? Because I know on your personal account, Apex, like I see you posting about Igon all the time.
Yeah.
Like what all goes into, hey, we're not only going to put money into this, but what other things can we do to make sure that this actually goes well?
Yeah, so for example, with a part like when we partner up with someone like Icon, then obviously we want them to succeed, right? So we're in constant communications with the team, thinking about if there's any way that we can, further support them. Um, like for example, like they're running the storage nodes right now, but they're already working on the next product that is like the compute side of things. Then it's just like brainstorming sometimes, like what are like good ideas, what is maybe not so good idea. um, like since we also started running our nodes, I've had a lot of people get in touch with me. Like people call me the Michael Saylor of Iacon because we've got so much. So anyone who's
Yeah,
like
that's good.
interested anyone who's interested in running nodes, they kind of like get in touch with me. And I had like tons of projects reach out. And I've like, for example, Tokyo has invested quite a lot of funds into running these nodes. And before they did that, I had a call with them, like telling them exactly how it all works, and perhaps helping with the decision making process to invest or not to invest. um, but yeah, I would say that the key is just kind of like open communication with the team always. And if there are any kind of like any concerns or anything, just make sure to always communicate that to them. And then yeah, it's been really easy and professional. I would say that communicating with Igon's team has probably been the easiest, because I've spoken to a lot of NFT founders, for example, right? And sometimes with them, it's very unprofessional the way how, how they conduct things. Whereas with these larger projects and more serious ones, I would say it's just more easier somehow, more smooth.
Love that. And is there anything exciting coming up that you're kind of eyeing to invest in next? I know you were talking about maybe getting into the computing with Igon once that comes out, but has there been anything on your radar that's really gotten your interest?
So I've been looking into a lot of things, and on Cardano, there's nothing that interesting. Like the AI, the whole AI thing, it is cool, but it's also highly speculative, right? Like in 6 months from now, it could be completely dead, and then we have another narrative again, right? And then it's also tricky, looking at the cross chain things like this. As I pointed out earlier, it's like a difficult process. There's just too much going on. You don't really know the teams. So what we've kind of like looked into is perhaps reinforcing our existing investments. So looking into Igon's compute, looking into World Mobile Token, they're releasing more of their air nodes. And actually, there is one investment that I forgot to mention to you, and it's to do with You know how Fluid Tokens is working on this kind of like platform where you can bridge Bitcoin and Cardano, right? So we have invested into becoming a validator of their kind of like operations, right? And there's quite a lot of potential there because their idea is to try to somehow unlock the DeFi or DApp aspect of things between Cardano and Bitcoin. So if you could bring in investors from Bitcoin into Cardano, that would be huge amount of liquidity first and foremost. So yeah, we've been working on that. But regarding any new investments, anything like game changing, there hasn't really been anything interesting on our radar yet. But we're constantly, researching into stuff. The reason why I'm mentioning this Bitcoin Cardano bridge is because like if that becomes a reality, then that just opens up a lot of new opportunities to invest into, right?
Oh, 100%. I actually have him on a pod. For those that are listening in, I actually have Raul from Fluid on a podcast, I think on Tuesday. So we'll make an announcement about that. But I've been really interested in learning more about what's actually capable because I've seen a lot of conversations about, being able to unlock all this Bitcoin liquidity into Cardano and, different smart contract capabilities. But I don't know, it's kind of been hard for me to find out like what all has been possible.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm excited to talk to him about it because I know like he is out of everyone that is developing on Cardano, like he's probably one of the top three guys
yeah,
to talk to about that sort of thing.
yeah. They've been around for quite a long time, and they've released like various different products already. So it's exciting to see. As you said, like it's a lot of talk, like yeah, it's going to unlock Bitcoin liquidity, but what is the actual reality? Like, what is possible and what's not possible. But the exciting thing is that something's happening, right? There's this completely
Something's
new
happening,
narrative.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's great too because I love Bitcoin as well, and like I'm into the ordinals and different things that are on Bitcoin. So I'm all here for it. Now, kind of my next question here is, there are different passive income projects. I even made a tweet about this recently, where it's like, okay, you have Goofy Gophers, they're doing mining, and then you're doing a bunch of deep in stuff and different investments in mining. I know the bank guys, they're doing a lot of similar things as well. Like, what do you think separates Titans from these other projects? Like why should someone, I guess, get into Titans rather than these other passive income projects that are coming out?
yeah. First of all, like I really like a lot of the projects that are doing this, like the bank, the GGMC. It's good to see like them um, kind of like how do you say it, like embracing this passive income concept, right? And a lot more projects focusing towards that because the previous model was obviously faulty. Well, it wasn't faulty, but it just didn't work long term. All the projects from before were dead, whereas now there's a few of us left, and any new project that comes in, as you said, they're trying to do some kind of like passive income um, model. When it comes to Titan, why you should invest into us over others? Well, I think that you should diversify your portfolio so hold a bit of everything. But with Titans, we were first to do the Iagon partnership, so if we kind of like front run everyone in that aspect, um, we've got the best node operations and stuff as well. So if you stake into our nodes, you'll get the maximum rewards and such. But I guess the number one thing with our model is that we're doing the mining plus the DeFi deepin. So you get steady and stable rewards paired with the more speculative like Iagon and other DeFi plays. When it comes to our mining operation, we're actually doing it with someone called Cardania. And the reason why we're doing that with Cardania is because we so the farm is in Washington State, and the electricity rates there are quite cheap. I think it's like 0.5 cents per kilowatt or something like that, right? Compared to like our other operation at like because we also have some miners through GCMC, for example, and the electric costs there are, I would say, like 45% or 50% more expensive or higher.
Wow.
So we invested into building this farm together with the Cardania. So we invested in all the infrastructure and also into the miners. So the idea there is obviously like with mining, you have to keep your costs low. So this is the most profitable farm in the ecosystem currently. So if you are into mining, then you should consider obviously buying Titans because we have the best electricity rates as well. Um, and then I guess like the most important aspect of Titans is that we have still a lot of capital left at our disposal for further investments. And then most importantly, like the Titan tokenomics work in such a way that when we launched the project, like the product, in the tokenomics, 15% of the tokens of the full total supply was kept in our treasury for only sole purpose to liquidate over time if we need more funds to then reinvest into more revenue streams. So as like that's basically selling Titan token for like OTC or something, or even on the market, and then immediately reinvesting into something like buying 100 more miners or setting up more nodes or new investment. And then in turn, what happens then is that your token price increases, right? And then also your treasury value increases because the token price has increased. I like to call it the infinite money glitch, right? So we also have that card, right, to play. So our funds should be fairly secure with this model, like to always have more money to invest. And then obviously from like the revenue streams that we have, like a certain percentage is kept in our treasury, and then the idea is to also invest that into more stuff or scale our existing investments and stuff. So I would say those are some of the reasons. And obviously, a community, I love to call them smart money investors because everyone there is they don't want to buy into hype and speculation. They're more like long term oriented. People who have quite high purchasing power, a lot of experience, and a lot of family oriented people. Because I go to a lot of these other discords, and I don't know, I see all these like crazy like racism and stupid jokes and just these degens, like a guy is
Yeah.
complaining that he couldn't like there's a guy complaining about something, and it's like you ask him how much do you hold, bro? And then he's like, I've got like $50 worth of your coin or your NFT or something. It's like, come on, man, just what are you even complaining about? It's always these small fish who are like always complaining about stuff. And I don't know. It's strange to me because I never like, even when I used to flip projects in the early days, like I understood that anything that I purchase is an investment, right? And I'm not going to start harassing the team, over every little decision, like what they're doing and stuff. You also have to trust the team a little bit to know what they're doing, right? I don't know if in Jelly Cubes you see this, but sometimes when you announce something or you say something, then you have like a lot of people like, well, why are you doing this? And then you have to explain everything in detail. It can get a little bit irritating, but it is what it is. Yeah.
And speaking on that, like through this process, what's been the most challenging thing for you? Like when it comes to, running this project?
Yeah. So probably the most challenging thing has been building in the Cardano ecosystem. Not because there's anything wrong with Cardano itself. Like I'm a Cardano maxi and stuff, but like when we first like launched, like or any project that tries to launch something, there's just so much negativity from the people in the space. It's like almost like people don't want things to be launched or built. Like when we launched both of the NFTs, there was so much FUD around them. Like people were going crazy that we're like grifters and scammers and this, and it's not only us that people were kind of like saying. It's like every project or product that I see launching, there's always this crazy backlash. Like, why are you guys trying to raise funds? Well, I mean, we're trying to raise funds
Dude,
because we're
that
trying
is weird.
to,
That is so facts. Like, sorry to interrupt, but like that, like, yeah, that happens a lot on Cardano.
yeah. And I don't really see this on other chains. Like, I'm not really that into other chains or anything, but the minimal kind of like exposure that I have, let's say to like Solana or something, or Bitcoin originals, like I don't really see this negativity. There's obviously some negativity always, but it's not on this level. Like we see all these Cardano influencers, like they used to post about like projects and just like flooding them to zero, basically. Um, But then now, a lot of projects are dying, and then you see them posting about why is nothing being launched on Cardano. So yeah, I guess the most difficult aspect has been dealing with this and this sort of things. And yourself, like if someone posts some misinformation or some FUD, it spreads like wildfire. It's almost like people love drama on Cardano for some reason. And I think this is very like self-destructive pattern, and somehow we need to move away from that, if we want to grow. And because like if someone new enters the ecosystem, like if they see that, it's like, hasta la vista, baby, I'm out. I'm here to make money, make some connections, be positive and stuff. I don't want to see any negativity for people trying to push something forward. Yeah,
Yeah, I get like I see the both sides in the sense that they want to make sure the money is going to people that are genuinely going to build something. Maybe there's so much mistrust in the aspect that many things haven't been built, and a lot of
yeah,
money has been raised and hasn't really gone to anything. But then once again, like if you're a team that's already built something like you guys had and already had showcased a lot of work and experience in the space, it's like, yeah, like here's the idea that we want to do. You can choose whether or not you want to buy it, but this is what we're trying to do.
yeah.
But yeah, I've noted it happens on Bitcoin even more actually, believe it or
Oh,
not.
really?
Like,
Okay.
yeah, like on Bitcoin, I would say it even happens more than on Cardano, where it's very like Cardano has a cult, Bitcoin also has a cult. I feel like on Bitcoin, they're very wary of new projects and like projects coming into their ecosystem. You almost have to like prove yourself in a way.
Yeah,
We've seen some projects like try to get into Bitcoin, and some have worked, some haven't, and it takes a lot of work. And I feel like it's very similar to Cardano in that aspect. Um,
yeah,
kind of my next thing here is what you had just mentioned is like user base and onboarding and getting new people into the ecosystem. Obviously, if a lot of your investments are Cardano based, obviously you want Cardano to do well, right?
yeah.
How what do you think Cardano can sort of improve on, and how do you think more people can get onboarded to this ecosystem?
It's a really good question. And like during the last bear market, I honestly thought that once Cardano hits $1, right, we'll get a lot more people kind of like coming in and getting excited about the ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, people follow money, right? Mainly people get into crypto because they want to do an investment and then make a bit of money out of it, right? And then I was kind of like thinking, like when people look at the charts, I think like a new investor doesn't really understand what a market cap is and how the price points work. So if they look at Solana, for example, it's $130 or something, right? And then Cardano is $1. So they think that Solana is 130 times more valuable than Cardano, for example. Like a newbie, he would think that just just for some reason, right? Because he doesn't understand how all that works. So I used to think that if Cardano reaches $1, then we'll get a lot more people flocking in. But that didn't really happen. We hit, I think it was 1.3 or something was the recent like high,
Yeah.
like a few months back, and we didn't really see a lot of new people join the ecosystem. I saw a few here and there, right? But it wasn't like before, like back in 2021, where there was this massive rush. Like you know, I would say it was like 10 times more people in our ecosystem. The thing is, like, there's a lot of Cardano holders, but they're not really engaged in the ecosystem, right? And the whole value of the token, like people always say, like, how come Cardano is not at $5 or whatever, right? But then it's like, why would it be, right? The value of the coin comes directly from the businesses and projects that are building inside its ecosystem, right? For example, Solana, like they have the reason the price is so high because they have so many different, projects building there. Like even Trump launched the meme coin there, right? Why didn't he launch it on Cardano, for example, right? So I don't really know what the right answer to that question is. I personally believe that maybe the Cardano entities could maybe like do a better job in a certain way. I think they like had some calls before with like the Cardano Foundation people and Mergo and stuff like that, and they were totally oblivious to like what the real kind of like state of projects that have been built on Cardano is. You know, like they didn't know about. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to know about Titan's project, but they didn't. For example, they didn't know like Iagon or some other top projects that are building, like
They
you
didn't
know.
know about I. Whoa, whoa,
And it's like,
whoa! They didn't
how
know
the
about
hell?
Iagon.
Yeah, the guy just heard about it the first time. I was like, holy hell, man! Like you're supposed to represent this like entity, and like surely like one of the basic,
I mean, Iagon's
thing.
literally the second largest project on Cardano.
Yeah, so
That's
they don't really
crazy.
know about the ecosystem, and they're supposed to like promote it or something. So yeah, it's kind of bizarre. But I think they could do a better job, and then obviously just more marketing. I would say I think Hoskinson is doing a good job, but then sometimes he also gets tackled in private, drama on X, and that doesn't really, it's not good to get into that as like a CEO, or let's say like the figure of
Face of
the
yeah.
face of the product. So there's a lot of improvements, I would say, but I think from tech side of things, if they can do like the midnight, the privacy chain, that could be quite successful. And obviously, I think that we have the best tech available. So with the best tech, we can attract a lot of investments from serious like business Web2 businesses or whatever, who have a lot of capital at their disposal. But yeah, it's been quite surprising. I don't really know. Though that's kind of like my thought process behind why things haven't like been as successful as they were before. But I obviously believe that they're going to improve in the future and get better. What about you? What do you think, Jason? Am I on the right? Is my thought process right,
You're
or are you
flipping the
thinking differently?
script. I
Huh?
mean, I agree with all of your points, honestly. I get asked this question sometimes. I'm not a chain maxi. Like I've been on a lot of chains. I'd say Cardano's, my home base where, we decided
Yeah,
to launch Jelly Cubes almost 3 years ago now. I think ultimately you need to get users that transact on the chain and are part of the community. And in order to get those users, you need to get projects that are building in the Cardano ecosystem. In these projects, you want to attract high quality teams because high quality teams are going to build high quality products.
yeah,
But right now, there isn't really a reason why a high quality team should build on Cardano versus another chain when the amount of money they can raise and the amount of users and the amount of interoperability and infrastructure and documentation and grants and higher ups and foundations that are helping, they can go on Solana and pretty easily get all those things. So it's
yeah,
like some of these projects, they're raising hundreds of millions of dollars in VC rounds, and that's all on Solana, and they can easily be listed to centralized exchanges and all this stuff. And
yeah,
with that, you have the users, you have the high quality projects, and it's almost like a flywheel. But even then, you're seeing with Solana, like over time, like recently, the amount of volume and transactions have gone down a lot. Meme coins aren't as popular. And I think the money sort of flows. Like we saw some money flow into AVAX meme coins, like some of these different pre sales went insane. And then those are going to die. And, it's going to go into something else like Sonic, like Phantom. Money was flowing into there. And then you also had Barachain and in the future you're gonna have Manad, like that has a lot of hype behind it. So I think money's always flowing, but projects and teams need a lot of capital to be competitive. And they're gonna go where they can get that capital, not
yeah,
only from VCs, but also if they do a token raise, but also just from volume and metrics. And right now, I
yeah,
think to kind of wrap this up, I think the big problem that a lot of people I've talked to have said is Cardano just needs more volume and more users to attract other things.
yeah,
Centralized exchanges don't want to add Cardano native token support, which is like why Charles is trying to launch Midnight, is to try to get them to add support for that. But
Yeah.
they don't want to spend the money because the money is not there. When I talked with Melon from DexCenter, he's like trying to get all these integrations with other chains, and they're like, the money is not there for us to do this. So I think the
Yeah.
moment that the money is there, you're going to get those teams and everything's going to follow. But how you start that, I'm not sure. I think the Midnight thing as the Trojan horse to getting into centralized exchanges could be cool for Cardano native tokens. And I'm also super interested in the Bitcoin side of things as well. But yeah, we need to make it more profitable to build on Cardano, because right now even a lot of the dApps that we have aren't actually making too much money because
Yeah.
there's not enough volume in users. So it's like, how can you attract, new people to come in?
Yeah. And as you said, like people follow money, right? So if the price of Cardano goes up, then you'll automatically get some people and more investments and stuff. When the price is down, then no one really cares. No one's gonna look at it. And one of the key problems is like for the new, like completely new person is looking at the price charts and looking at Cardano at 75 cents, and then Solana is at $100, $130 or something, not understanding the market caps and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Dude,
tricky.
it's facts. It's facts. And I think it's one of those things like ADA has been going down for a while. I think you need a good, strong reversal that actually holds. If we keep
Yeah,
going to a dollar and then back down, I think like once this thing can hopefully start pumping at some point in time, you're going to have that reversal. You're going to have that momentum shift. You're going to have that mindset
yeah,
shift. And then hopefully you can get those projects that are then going to bring the next flow of liquidity. But I think like when I look at Cardano now compared to a couple years ago or even a year ago, it's only gotten better. So I think it's pretty close. Um,
yeah,
it's just, yeah, I think it takes time.
yeah. And the higher the price of Cardano is, then obviously like the builders, like me or you, we have a lot more funds at our disposal, right? Because if Cardano is like $5, then you just 5x your budget. So then we can build like whatever apps or whatever products we want to. But if the Cardano is like 50 cents, 75 cents, then it's much trickier to build and expand, right? So
And the
yeah,
opposite happened where a lot of projects got their money that got their aid at $3, at $2.50, at $2, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
they kind of
Yeah,
ran into the other issue where some of these teams from years back, like now all of a sudden don't have money because they held their
yeah,
treasury, or they held their original raise, whatever the case is.
yeah. And I think that's one of the ideal things with us, that we launched literally at the bottom. Like when the first NFT mint was, I think Cardano was at 25 cents or something. So if you start from the bottom and then build up, then I think that's better than, as you said, starting with $3 ADA and then kind of like budgeting around that. Like for example, Mokosi, right? They raised funds during the um, bull market, and then probably then they had the plan like, okay, so this is going to last us this much. With these funds we can develop this much, and then suddenly it all plummeted, and then it's like, holy hell, now we can't actually do what we said we were going to do. And yeah, it is what it is, but you just have to keep pushing forward, man. That's all that you can do.
Facts. Well, we are getting to the end of the podcast here. Shout out to everyone that listened in. It looks like over 355 people have listened in some point on this live, which is insane. So I
All
appreciate
right.
everyone
Well,
joining in. I've been doing these a lot of weekdays with different projects in Cardano and Bitcoin. If anyone wants to jump in the next ones, we post our schedules. But kind of the last question here, Apex, is anything exciting coming up for Titan soon? So we sort of
yeah,
wrap
so
this up. Anything people to look forward to?
yeah, so I guess the biggest things for us is that we ordered like these Bitcoin miners quite a while back, and I think over the next few weeks we'll have most of them up and running. So that means that your Titan token is going to start pumping out ADA rewards for the Bitcoin mining operation. We're also looking into a way how we could pay out people actually in Bitcoin directly. So this is where the Fluid token project comes into play, right? So I think it would be interesting to be the first project to pay out Bitcoin rewards and then create this whole marketing narrative around that. Yeah, I think that no one's kind of like done that before. We also have more air nodes probably coming live with the World Mobile Token, and we're thinking of ordering another this kind of like enterprise grade rack for Igon, the delegated staking. I don't know, Jason, if I mentioned, but are you familiar how the delegated staking launched a couple of days
Yeah,
ago?
I
That
heard your guys is filled up like almost immediately, right?
yeah. So we launched them and then they filled up in like 5 seconds or something, right? So people have been kind of like, oh, I couldn't delegate, and I think they have a problem now that this like as soon as someone launches a node, it gets filled out immediately because the supply and demand, they they don't match. So we're probably going to order another enterprise rack. So if people are looking to stake their Igon and receive kind of like the highest rates possible, then you should look towards our nodes. Probably what we're actually going to do this time around is they're going to release something called like gated staking model. So if you want to stake to a node, like let's say our node, there's a certain criteria that you have to first fulfill. So it's kind of like a whitelist thing, right? So let's say if you want to stake to our future nodes, you have to hold like an NFT or Titan token or whatever we decide to do. So that's quite exciting. But I guess like development wise, we're going to. So one of the things that has been quite tricky with the Titans ecosystem is that we started as an NFT project, but then we have evolved into like this revenue generating ecosystem. And a lot of the new people who enter the project, it's been quite tricky for them to understand exactly what's going on because we have the NFTs, we have the token, like how does it all work and stuff. So we've been working on trying to simplify the ecosystem as much as possible. So like for easier user onboarding, because we've had a lot of people join the project but then it's just a bit confusing, right? So there's going to be a lot of new UI updates on the website, and everything is going to be simplified to the bare bone. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to earn passive income. Just hold the products, and that's you get paid. You don't have to even participate in the ecosystem if you don't want to, you know, because a lot other projects did like the whole gamified route that you have to then participate. But as you said, man, like no one has time for that, right? Everybody here is trying to make some money, and in crypto, things move really fast. So yeah, you just have to make it as simple as possible. So yeah.
Agreed. Well, dude, Apex, absolute pleasure having you on today. Congrats on everything that you guys have done with Titans. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the JellyPod. I'll see you guys later.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me, man, and thank you for everyone for listening. Jason has honestly some of the best content in the ecosystem, and it's always a pleasure listening to you. Like I remember when you first started doing like your YouTube and stuff, and before you had Jelly Cubes or anything. Like it was really, I always loved the videos, like all the NFT, like what's going on with the NFTs and stuff. So yeah, good to see like you now doing these podcasts and stuff, because one way that we can grow like the space is by having content creators do this kind of stuff, and at a highly professional level, I would say as well. So yeah, thank you.
Heck yeah, I
Thank you very much,
appreciate
man.
it, bro. I
No
appreciate it,
problem.
Apex.
All
I'll
right,
see you
thanks.
guys. Have a good
See
one.
you.